Today I will be talking about the court case Fulton versus Philadelphia. That it's about the clash between a Catholic foster care agency and the city of Philadelphia. The case originated a few years ago when Philadelphia officials announced they no longer partner with faith-based agencies that didn't want to assess whether same-sex couples are suitable for parents. Catholic Social Services and two religious foster care moms filed a lawsuit in response, arguing that the city was tampering their religious exercises rights. The Supreme Court's ruling in Fulton versus Philadelphia could refine not just the balance between religious and the LGBTQ religious rights, but the entire religious freedom landscape. It could set a new standard for how government officials accommodate religious beliefs. To discuss the case, the city of Philadelphia found out one of their foster care providers, the Christian Foster Company, was violating the city's fair practice ordinance by refusing to meet with gay couples for adoption. So they sent them a notice. The agency refused to change their policies, so Philadelphia stopped sending them kids. The Christian Foster Company sued, arguing that the government was interfering on their religious rights by not continuing to extend contracts to them. The Philadelphia case, which originated in 2018, centered on the religious exercise protection offered by the First Amendment. Catholic Social Services and two of its foster moms, Sheldon Felton and Tony Simon Butch, claimed Philadelphia officials violated their religious freedom by refusing to partner with agencies that Philadelphia asserted that offering religious exception to its non-discriminational rules would work against its goals of recruiting as many foster parents as possible. Lower courts ruled in favor of the city, deciding its exclusion of some faith-based agencies did not violate the First Amendment. These rules cited a 1990 Supreme Court ruling called Employment Division versus Smith, which is said limits on religious rights are presumable if they stem from a nature general applicable law. The Supreme Court overturned these lower court rulings, stating that Philadelphia's policies was not generally applicable since the city was willing to offer exceptions to non-religious agencies. The ruling does not, as legal experts speculate, it might dramatically refine how the Supreme Court applies the First Amendment. The best precedent we have for how to deal with generalized religion discrimination law is the case of Employment Division versus Smith. This case from the 1990s dealt with a Native American who was fired for illegally smoking patent as part of what he claimed to be a religious ceremony. That firing was not the problem. The man had broken the rules and tested positive for a banned substance. The question was whether the state could deny him participation in their unemployment program for getting caught consuming a banned drug in connection to his religion. In the end, the Supreme Court held that it was totally fine for the state to prohibit the use of patent, and they didn't have to pay him unemployment despite patent religion implications. That precedent would not have been good for today's Christian foster care community case. Fortunately for the Christian Foster Company, the Supreme Court sidestepped the controversy, writing in their decision, "This case falls outside Smith because the city pardoned the religious exercises of CSS through policies that do not meet the requirements of being neutral and general applicable. The significance of this decision is how it carves out a distinction between today's law and the law question from the Smith-Payton case. So what's the difference between mandating a company meet with LGBTQ couples against their religion beliefs and mandating that someone cannot smoke patent against their religious belief? A lot less than you think. The difference really hinges on something so nuanced that who boy is a lawyer out there about to get a six-figure bonus. The law has to be generally applicable, right? So if a Christian smokes patent and a Native American smokes patent, everybody gets the chop. In this case, the fact would appear to be the same. If a agnostic says no gays and a Christian says no gays, the state isn't sending anyone and any more kids, except the law includes a system of individual exception that the consumer of the City Department of Human Services can grant in her sole discretion. So how does that change the conversation? Well, the way the court read the exception was everyone who won't meet the LGBTQ individuals cannot participate in our program except if they get the thumbs up from the consumer of the Department of Human Services. Get the wrong consumer in the job and you can open yourself up to religion discrimination. Catholics who won't meet with gays, Catholics participating in the program, Muslims who won't meet with gays. Here's an exception. To be clear, that's what's happening, but it doesn't matter. The consumer has never actually granted an exception. The problem is the existence of the formal merchandise for granting exception in the first place, because such a scheme invites the government to decide which reason for not complying with the policies are worthy of solicitude. Because of the exception of the court unmissionally decide that the anti-discrimination law was not generally applicable and therefore unconstitutional, while at the same time voting in a 6-3 liberal victory not to revisit the Employment Division Vince's Smith decision, which would shift the fundamental groundwork of religion rights and state rights. So what this mean? A whole lot less than it could have. Basically, this case has been a multi-year grammatical study of this law. Philadelphia handed it over to TA in 2018, and the TA just handed it back and said, yeah, take out that exemption part, resubmitted it, and it should be accepted until we overturn. President sent it in the case of Employment Division Visit Smith. As a result of the unanimous ruling, Catholic Social Services can continue partnering up with the city despite its refusal to assist same-sex couples in Fulton visit City of Philadelphia when the government is willing to offer other types of exceptions to laws. It cannot refuse to offer religious accommodations.